Hey everyone. So we wanted to kind of keep a positive vibe about the industry. There's been a lot of negative publicity about no CGI and VFX is evil and everything. And we were just thinking they would share some nice stories about like the benefits of being a VFX artist and why we do it and why we're happy to do it. So we thought it was a good idea to talk about maybe our first time seeing our names in the credit and some other benefits. So does anybody have a good story about like the first time you saw your name in lights on the end scroll along with the other names that are a giant wall of text?
I have a story about how I didn't want to see my name in the credits.
Really?
So one of the first films I worked on as a compositor, junior composer at MPC, on 50 Shades of Grey. And I was like, man, is this it? My whole degree and my studying for 3 years VFX at university. Then I think at this point I'd done maybe like a year and a half in roto prep. Finally I get to be a comper and it's like, fuck. It's like, is my name my first credit going to be on this? It's like, I'm telling my grandparents and they're super proud of me. It's like, oh, what's the film about? And it's like, oh, this is not so fun. So yeah, that was the first time. Luckily I didn't get a credit on that. And I think the first credit I got was Guardians of the Galaxy or Terminator, one of the Terminator films.
Was that at
which was amazing.
Or MPC?
MPC. And obviously it's like, it's a big thing for you. You get to update your IMDb and your family get to go see it and things. So, and I think actually, to be honest with you, I think it kind of wears off a little bit, the excitement.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. Like, but I mean, how about you guys? Was it a similar process? Were you straight in as compers and did you get your credit then or was it for you guys?
I was definitely roto paint, but I was lucky in the sense that the entire block of credits was just one thing. So it didn't say which ones was which. So all the people that I told that I was a compositor believed me.
You're like, I was actually the director. They just put our names in the in the big block.
Yeah,
it's great just having family with you, and then there's lots of professions that you can explain, and it's they don't exactly know what you do. I mean, they can kind of get your head around it if you explain some detailed analysis about statistics and marketing, etc. But the second, the people that know you go in and see the product of your work and then see your name after the product has been presented it speaks for itself, and it's a very nice moment.
Yeah, I think I was really lucky to start working on films really early on, like the first year that I started. And before the Roto Paint gig on Luma, I got to work at a small studio called Gradient Effects, which is run by some German folks, and we worked in a movie called Priest. I don't know if you ever saw this movie. It was with the guy that plays Vision.
Is it a horror film?
It's not a horror film. It's like a sci-fi Western. And basically this priest is really badass and he kicks everyone's ass, and there's like a train sequence where they have to stop a train that's a bomb from entering a city and blowing it up, and he's like fighting all these villains on top of a train. And we had some like blue screen.
This is like the regular life of a priest, right? Yeah. This is what priest is.
It's like a priest, badass priest. Anyway, it was super cool because like an actual film, and I was using Shake at this place, so we spent all that time learning Nuke, and they're still using Shake, and we had to do the blue screens and everything. And I had no idea what I was doing, but luckily they were being very nice to me and my friends that were joining to do that. But yeah, that was cool. It's just like, oh, this is a real film. It was anamorphic, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. And seeing in the credit, and then going into Roto Paint. But it was still, even at Luma, I was with G. I think G helped get me the job at Luma Pictures, and it was just like big film after big film. It was like, there was Green Hornet, and then Captain America we did, and X-Men, and all this kind of stuff. And it was just like one after the other. And even though it was like a Roto Paint title, as you were saying, like, gee, like, it's still a film, and so you're still like, oh my god, like, you can feel the foot in the door, if there's any measurement of like I'm almost there, or I've entered the room or the door's open, it's like, oh, I saw the name in the credit, right? Which is really important, and I understand why people want to see their name in the credit. And as you said, Josh, it kind of wears off later down. I think you try to put some more, like, what you did in the film itself holds more weight to you later, because you start to realize that, you know, you could work on it for a week and maybe still get your name in the credit and do like a little thing. Whereas if you were somebody who helped shape a scene or a shot and that like it was your creative input, I think that sort of stuff becomes much more valuable and more impactful for you later on. So that's how I feel. But it's always fun to see it.
I guess like for all of us that have a passion about this job, it did not just come from one day to another. Like I just want to do VFX for film, and it's the first time I'm using a computer. Like most of us probably were using Photoshop or were doing photography or film or something. And at least for me personally, I'm sure for many people it's the same, that the moment you get into a film, it's like, I've been learning so many things for hobby and for passion for so many years. And now it's like, I'm actually doing film. Like I'm on a cinema, I'm just looking at the film and I'm there in some way. And I think that's the magic kind of moment. It's not just that you've been learning for a year. It's more that you've been developing an interest for a field for many years probably. And then you're suddenly into that situation. So when I started, I think I was for the first year working in some small Spanish films in a studio. It was named Telson. And the first film I saw my name in was it was called Mama. It was with Penelope Cruz. We did lots of stuff there. Even as I started doing roto, prep, comp, like they gave me the whole thing as I was progressing. And that was nice. That was super nice. I watched the premiere and stuff. Then went to...
Whoa, you got to go to the premiere.
That's what you get with working in a small studio.
Holy shit,
yeah.
man.
And then I went to London. The other films that I did in Spain were, released later. But then I worked in The Martian and all of that, and that was like just opening Nuke and seeing Matt Damon was
Adrian.
like, man, this is crazy.
Did you read the book of
When
The
you
Martian
came to
before
London-
you worked on it?
Not really.
Because I was a fan of the book. Anyway, so because I wanted to work on that film because I read the book and I was like, oh man, it's fun to like be a part of making something that you're a fan of already.
I was just going to say, speaking of The Martian, Adrian, do you remember this?
Oh,
The
yes,
badges
I
that
have
we've
it.
got.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
There you go. Some of the... Which is another advantage of working in the VFX industry, right? Like, you get all this kind of, like, memorabilia. And so, yeah, super.
Adrian,
What's your kind of, like, best memorabilia you guys have got
Ooh.
for films and projects?
just always t-shirts
Do you have
in the
any
hoodies.
T-shirts? Yeah.
Hoodies and t-shirts.
T-shirts,
Yeah.
the occasional badge.
Some mugs. It's always the studio. Adrian was talking about the premiere. Actually, I blocked this out of my head completely. But G probably remembers some occasions. Like we used to get like sometimes visits from the director, actor. I don't know if G was there when Seth Rogen came into Luma Pictures and thanked all of us.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
Like you don't get to really do it outside of like LA or maybe Vancouver or something occasionally. But like in LA, they would have like parties. I went to True Blood after party. True Blood, I think at Zoic, or maybe I was a +1. Or
Zoic.
I think it was a +1 actually. But anyways, just being in that sphere and going to the party and like seeing actual actors and stuff was a bit of a fun kind of thing in the Hollywood sphere. I'm not sure if it happens in other places. I mean, Adrian, you said it happened in Spain, so
Yeah, I guess the smaller the studio, the smaller
Adrian,
the
did
scope of VFX, the more sense as you just bring even the juniors and everything.
At,
Did you bring your tux to London, Adrian, when because you were like, right, there's going to be some epic premieres in London that I'm going to be going on when I'm at NPC, so you had your tux ready to go at the end of The Martian and stuff. But
Yeah, it was like a
sorry,
totally
Dave, what were you
different
going to say?
just getting into a huge studio with a huge pipeline and a black room, and that is like a completely different environment, and so enriching to go through different environments. And yeah, we've talked about this many times.
It was fun in the glory days when Sony ImageWorks LA was popping, because by working there, you had two great incentives. The first one is you would have access to the Sony lot, so where they did their shooting and stuff. The second is you would get big Sony discounts, and I'm sure that one is still present today. But it was like 30, 40, 50% on some things, and big stuff too, like cameras, not just like bespoke items.
yeah, like all the
anything that was
TVs and
like a
stuff.
Sony product. But the lot was cool because everybody's going in and out of there. One time I was having a lunch with my mate Trip, and I think Max might have been there, one of our previous guests, and out of nowhere, Adam Sandler just walks by in basketball clothes because he just finished playing a basketball game.
He was like, "Hey guys, what's up?"
You want to play some ball?
Oh man.
Then there was another time we had like gone there, and like the Star Trek crew was there, and like, but they were just on their lunch break in between shoots, so they were in the Enterprise getup.
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird being kind of in that world. Speaking of like people from Sony, we had got an apartment with a couple of compositors. We were all trying to make it in LA when we first got there. And we were in this new apartment that we got. We were housing a bunch of other people on our couch and stuff. So there was like 7 people living in a 3-bedroom apartment at one point. And we were having like a little bit.
Sounds like LA.
We were having some drinks or some party one night. And we didn't have any jobs. So we were just like fishing for internships and stuff. And we're on our balcony, like, because some people were smoking and stuff. And we heard these 2 guys walk by, and they were talking about VFX, and they were talking about Sony. And I was like, oh, no way. So I ran out of my apartment down into the street of LA, and I was like, whoa, you guys are VFX? And they're like, yeah, we work at Sony Pictures, which is coming back from LA. And I was freaking out because I'm from this like really small town, and I had just moved to LA. It was like within a month, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's crazy that I can just be on my balcony and hear a VFX artist, a professional VFX artist, walking down the street." And I thought that was like the craziest thing coming from like hick town somewhere. No offense to my hometown, but it was just wild, and I know that was probably a super rare occasion. But I just, something about that like stuck with me of like, oh, I'm in the right place. This is the place for me at that moment, to start out.
I mean, there are those hubs, aren't there? This is what I miss about, because obviously I'm working remotely at the moment. So I miss about working in Soho, London. So used to be all the studios, and that's changed now. They started moving out, but all the studios used to be in Soho. So you'd go for lunch and you'd be able to hear people complaining about a certain show, and all the shows have got the show names, right? So no one else has got any idea what the hell these people are talking about. But they're like, oh, FTB on this and on this one. And it's, I miss that. I miss getting the gossip and hearing people chat about all this stuff, right? It's
well, there'd be everybody
huge part, I think, the community side of it.
Around the pubs in Soho, there'd be like a big street with some pubs, and all these companies like MPC and DNEG and Framestore and everything. They would all come and like drink in the summertime, like in this outdoor area, and you'd just be mingling with other people in this big hub. It was super cool. I've done that a few times in London. It's something special about that, I think.
Yeah, something you miss, I think, with the remote. I mean, that's another thing, I guess, about the industry in general, right? Like, you meet people from all around the world, basically. It's which is another amazing thing. Like, you have these close friends with people from all sorts of different countries, so you kind of feel like you could do a whole ton of traveling and just stay with people that you know, right? As well. And I know you guys have made the most of that.
Where
is that?
I never thought that VFX. I didn't get into VFX because I wanted to travel or live abroad or anything. Live abroad from the US. But once I learned that I could, and that was something that you could do, like, it's so addicting to like move around and sort of use every place as a hub. So when I was in London, I was traveling all over Europe. When I was in Asia, I was traveling all over Asia. When I was in Australia, I was doing the whole Australia thing. And it's just crazy. The amount of folks that you meet that are from all around the world with a similar passion. And you have to be really a special type of person to get into VFX, where you have the like left hemisphere, right hemisphere working together, like technical knowledge of how to use a computer properly with the artistic knowledge of how to compose a shot properly. And you meet so many like geniuses in any other field they would be considered a genius, and they just chose VFX because that's what they want to do. And that they could probably be making more money somewhere else doing whatever, but they're like, no, I'm just going to do VFX because that's what they want to do. I think that's so, I swear the amount of people that I've met that are just absolute geniuses artistically and technically, it's just wild to be a part of that community there.
Well, it's a unique challenge, isn't it, I think? Like, if you think about everyone that's working on machine learning stuff right now in terms of the coding ability, they don't necessarily care about the creative output. They wouldn't know whether their thing's making better images. They just think that if it's close to real life, it's a better image. But we know in VFX that that's not true, because if we make real life, then people are like, that doesn't look very good. So
not exciting enough.
It's a very interesting. Exactly. So it's kind of like this. Yeah, it's again exactly as you said. It's this weird blend between the two, and kind of your job is always up for debate a little bit in terms of what is it you do. Are you a technical artist and this kind of stuff? So I think all of us in this call kind of go between the technical, and I think people at various different aspects of technical and creative. But
it's really the beauty, the fact that like we are where the two meet. You know, we're like the marriage between the two.
Yeah, like something that's like a great point that I was thinking. Apart from the fact that anyone that's purely technical or purely creative will not arrive in this industry, that's combined with the fact that this is not an industry that, at least, for the last 20 years, has been a part of official universities or like a direct and obvious way for people to, to pursue a path. So you also have to be a person that has the ability to go out of a usual path and pursue their own way and their own random, let's see where this takes me. And that combined with technical plus creative, it like distills a specific collection of profiles that is quite rare in other situations.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
I wanted to touch on one kind of final thing that I was just thinking about, why I got into this, or the reason the passion is so strong for VFX. And it's not quite filmmaking or anything. I remember the distinct feeling of showing a project that I was working on in my like high school auditorium. They let me show a film that I did with some VFX. And I remember that what I was doing, nobody understood how I did it. I was like the digital magician of VFX. They were like, how in the world did you do that? And from all the complaining and I guess negativity that we have with people don't understand what we do and they kind of confuse it, I think that's actually part of the beauty of it. Like that was the thing that got me in there. So even though we're sort of angry that like, I don't know, the actors or something have no idea what we're doing, that's a good thing because we're the magicians, right? We can't give away all of our tricks. And even if we tried to give it away, they still maybe wouldn't understand. And people, it's like kind of the skill is so honed in and so special that you really need to be in the world and be diving in for many years to understand what it is that we're doing to make these like crazy images. So I think that is still part of the beauty of like when you see something on the screen and you're like, how the hell did they do that? You know, you see Avatar 2, like, how long did this take them? Like, how did they end up pulling this off? And I think that is a cool part of the job.
I agree. But one thing we can do better is making people aware that I think there's more artistry and more people out involved. So for instance, in the case of the magician, right? When you don't know how they've done the trick, you think it's all these super complex things and all this super clever things that they've done. And then you see that it's like some mirror that's pointing in a direction or something. Whereas I think the problem with when people think of the same thing in terms of magician with VFX is they think you click a button and it isn't any cleverness and all this kind of stuff. So right. I think that's something we can do a touch better. Yes, we are magicians, but we need to make people aware that it's pretty hard to do this trick, if that makes sense.
Agree.
Because otherwise, if you just say, oh yeah, how I made it invisible is I clicked my fingers and it actually went invisible. That's not impressive. But it's all the science and the trickery behind the thing. Yeah. So I think we could do better at promoting less of the technology that's being used and more of the artists that are being used.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense. Like the reason why Andy Serkis's mocap is so good, yes, he's a good actor, but also, maybe there's a ton of people working on the mocap stuff, right? And the mocap suits and artistry behind all that stuff. So I think the more we can do a better job of drawing attention to less of the technical side and more of the creative artist side. Because that's always, I think, the biggest thing that shocks people when they see what we do. It's like, I had to frame by frame paint that thing there for a frame because of the love of it, right? And it's like, why does it look so good? Well, because it took me a day to paint that thing frame by frame. So
I think you're absolutely right.
So
we're filming reality, and reality is, as I sometimes mention, it's so complex that there's no single set of tricks that can solve us every single problem. So we have to be completely open to 1,000 possibilities for each shot and organically craft a solution that works. And that takes a lot of artistry from every single person involved. And the whole of film is a trick. It's not just VFX that is a trick. And the digital camera shooting, like the lights are changing, the environment that the actors like film is all a trick. We're just a part of that trick that, like, we are the complex part of the trick in some way, and the post-production part, but that we are not like some different entity. And that's something I think that people should be aware of.
definitely. So shout out to all the VFX artists watching the stream or watching this video. I think that's pretty good end note on there. It's all about the artists and the hard work frame by frame that they put in. So, okay, see you guys.